We're going to be talking surf fishing along the Alabama Gulf Coast, specifically whiting and specifically redfish. Angelo DePaola, the coastal connection here at J&M Tackle, the Gulf Coast foremost saltwater outfitter, serving the dedicated angler since 1988. I'm here with my good friend Jay. Jay, you've just got a plethora of stuff out here. Like, let's go right into it. So we're kind of that time of year, right?
Right.
Like kind of into the new year, kind of February-ish, and it's surf fishing season, and it's time for spring breakers to be getting down here too.
It's not far from it, I'll tell you that. So typically, when you go out to the beach this time of year, your primary target species would be whiting and or redfish, depending on what you want to do for that day. And the thing about whiting, if you find them, you find them. They're going to school up. They're going to be all congregated in one spot.
What are we looking for? Like, what should somebody that's sitting at that overpass or looking down from the condo, what should they be looking for?
So the one thing that I like to look for, and you should as well, is dark water. So when you're standing on the beach, a lot of times you'll see a sandbar out there a little ways out. And then there'll be pockets of darker water, which means it's deeper water. And that's where those fish will congregate, because the closer you get to the surface of the water in the wintertime, the colder that water gets, but the deeper you go, the warmer it gets. So those fish they'll congregate in that warmer water, and that's where they like to sit.
Dude, it makes total sense. And it's funny, I fish a lot, and I sit here and think sometimes you just forget about hot water, cold water, especially this time of year. All right, so how are we going to target these fish? What do we need? Let's start with the terminal tackle.
So what I like to do, I'll take a standard pompano rig like this, and you can get them in whatever color you'd like. They make them in pink, orange, red, purple, you name it.
Yeah.
Most of them are going to come 2-hook standard. You can get them with 1 hook. You can get them with no floats, no beads, no anything, and that's what you call a naked rig. But standard, little float, everything's ready to go. Take it out of the pack, tie it on your line,
cool,
and you're gone.
Cool. What are we baiting with on that?
So what you'll do, once you have this tied on, you'll take a piece of frozen shrimp. You can either get it frozen or fresh dead. There's no point in getting live shrimp just because it's going to fall off the hook. And one, it costs you entirely too much money to burn through that much bait at one time.
Yeah.
But you'll take this piece of shrimp, and given the length of the shrimp, I like to take the head off. I like to pinch the tail off.
All right.
And then I'll put a piece about almost an inch long on a hook. And on that same hook, I'll put either a piece of fish gum, or I'll take a piece of Fishbites and put them on that same hook as well, and I'll cut them the same length as I do that piece of shrimp.
Now, do you like to use different colors on different hooks just to kind of figure out what's going on that day?
I do. I'm a firm believer in testing the waters. If you're going to take your time to go out there and do all these things, there's no point in doing, the same thing over and over and over again. Maybe you have pink floats. Maybe you have a different colored fish bite. Maybe you fish with something besides shrimp. Yeah, just if you're out there, mix it up a little bit.
So the other thing I just noticed, looking at these rigs, you've got circle hooks on everything here.
Correct.
So give me the reason why circle hooks instead of J hooks.
So when you're surf fishing, you're using, anywhere from a 7 to 10, 11, 12-foot rod in some cases, and you're making a 60 to 100-yard cast on a good cast.
Yeah.
And it is extremely hard to set the hook when your line is that far out. So
True that.
Fish picks that circle hook up, and the circle hook sets the hook itself.
Well, you've got this weight on here, and that resistance between that and the rod should be enough to send that sucker
Correct.
home, right?
Yes, sir.
And the other thing I love about fishing this time of year is you've got the backup with the fish gum or the fish bites. But you don't really have to worry about catfish and all the trash fish that are eating your bait. So your shrimp's more likely to stay on a little longer as well. But I always think this just stays on well. You could almost fish this without that. But I do think there's something about having some meat on the hook. All right. So what kind of weight, if we're using this rig for the whiting, what size weight are you using? Is that dependent on the wind,
Yeah, given your elements that you're in, if it's a calm day, light wind, I'm going to say 1.5 foot or less. If you look on, your weather forecast or whatever, I typically like to go 1 to 2 ounces. Now, given a heavier surf, larger waves, a heavy wind, I like to stick around between a 3 and 4.
Now, you're going to use a pyramid weight on that, correct?
Correct.
All right. So what are we using the Sputnik for then?
So let's just say you have a really light rod that's only capable of throwing up to 3 ounces. Yeah. And it's a rough day on the surf. You need a heavier weight, but your rod can't handle a heavier weight. So this Sputnik will act as a heavier weight itself because those spikes will dig into the sand and it'll catch almost like an anchor.
Kind of like grappling hook.
So my rule of thumb, you can add 2 ounces to whatever weight your Sputnik is. So this particular one's a 4-ounce Sputnik, but it'll hold like a 6.
Okay. So all right. I never thought about it like that. That's good to know. I mean, look, I fish all the time and I'm sitting here learning stuff right now. All right. So that's your whiting setup. Is there anything else, any other way that you like to fish for whiting other than like basically a set rig like you're doing?
Not really. I do like to fish fast.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
When I say fish fast, I'll take 1 rod, 1 sand spike, and I won't let my bait sit in the water for more than 7 minutes at a time.
You're just moving.
I'm moving. I'll cover half a mile, 3/4 mile, maybe even a mile, in just a short amount of time. Because if those fish are not there, I don't need to soak a bait for 30 minutes to figure that out.
Yeah, no, I love it. And you know what else I love about it? If you're still like keeping up with your New Year's resolution to lose weight, it's like you get to catch some fish and you get to get some exercise. So you don't have to feel bad about frying them up later on that evening, which to me is my favorite way to eat whiting. All right. So we got the whiting set up. Let's go into your redfish setup. How do you like to do that?
So redfishing, I'm typically going to use a hair heavier setup as far as my line, my rod, and everything else. Because, a good size whiting is good, really good one is 17 to 18 inches,
This is roughly about 2 pounds.
Yeah, just very small, very close to the beach.
Yeah.
You take a bull red, for example, that joker is, 30 inches long on a good day.
Yeah.
So you're going to need heavier equipment, heavier tackle, a little bit heavier weight because you're throwing a larger chunk of bait to present that to that fish. So what I like to do, I'll take one of these redfish rigs, which comes with a 7/0 hook. It comes with a clip on it where you can still use your same pyramid lead or your Sputnik lead, and it works as a Carolina rig almost.
Dude, I love that setup because, like, depending on what the surf's doing that day, you can go Sputnik, you can go pyramid weight, you can pick out whatever weight you want to do. Man, what a great setup. And you really don't want to use an egg sinker for this because it rolls around.
Correct.
This is obviously not going to roll around all that much. All right. So we've got, what are you using for bait for redfish? What's your go-to?
So with this redfish rig, I'll take either a finger mullet, which is what I have here, and I'll cut that dude in half, which I want a piece 3 to 4 to 5 inches long. A redfish he's an opportunistic feeder, but at the same time, he's very lethargic because of the water temperature. So if you put a really big bait out, it takes a lot of energy for that fish to eat. So the smaller the baits that you go with, the chances are he'll just, swim by, pick it up as a snack.
Well, it's easier hook up too. So let me ask you this, because I was out showing condos the other day, and the big school, you could see there was a bunch of birds working some school of bait on the beach. Are you looking for anything in particular? I mean, there's no way you could have cast a bait into this, but are you looking for anything in particular with the redfish as you're on the beach?
So what I like to look for, we talked about finding those deeper holes for whiting.
Yeah.
I like to find cuts in that sandbar. So you're watching the sandbar, you're watching the waves roll, and then there'll be a cut, and there won't be any waves roll.
Yeah.
And then it'll pick back up,
you see that
later.
Yeah.
And on an outgoing tide, that water sucks out between those in that cut, and it creates a rip current. And those fish will sit on the edge of that rip current, waiting for stuff to pass in and out of it. And that's where I primarily like to target redfish.
No, like the way I would think about it is like, like if you were in a boat, you're going to go fish Dixie Bar, like that current's ripping across there. It's pushing crab, shrimp, whatever happens to be. It's disoriented, and it also allows you to fish a little bit bigger, heavier leader in that situation. All right, so we've got the terminal tackle. And by the way, like, we've got all this on the pegs behind us, but like, if you're in town and you're just looking to buy some stuff and come out here and fish, J&M already has it all pre-packaged up in an easy travel travel tray like this, which I love. I mean, you just throw this in
grab and go
with your with your surf spike. Speaking of surf spikes, sometimes I see people putting it. You wouldn't think that there's a right way and a wrong way to put one of these things in the ground. Tell us which way they should be facing and why.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I have watched plenty of rods over my time just disappear into the Gulf, and nobody knows it but me. You can't run fast enough to get them. But what I like to do, I like to put the longer end facing towards the beach. So when you put that sand spike towards the water like this, it's got more surface area in the sand. So
it's like a lever.
Now you put it like this, it can go like this.
Yeah.
But you do it this way, and
this way faces the water.
Correct.
Yep.
You want to put the longest end facing towards the water.
All right. Awesome. All right. Let's do this. I know we got a couple different kind of levels, like entry level and then higher end level rods and reels. Can you show people what you got and kind of give a brief reason why something might be, higher end versus lower end?
Absolutely.
I don't want to call it lower end because you can catch all these fish on any of these, but some people want certain things, and some people are like, "Hey, I'm going to come here twice a year." I'm not,
No, I get that. So this is what we would call an entry level surf fishing combo. This is a Penn Pursuit. This is actually a 5,000 size reel. Comes with an 8-foot rod. Now you can get it in a 9-foot rod, a 10-foot rod, an 11-foot rod, but surf fishing up close to the beach, there's no reason to use a 11, 12, 13-foot rod if you're going to cast just a few yards off the beach. So this reel is, like I said, it's an entry-level reel.
I mean, it's still a nice reel.
It's a Penn reel. It holds up well in the salt. Does it hold up as well as other options? Maybe not.
So just don't drop it in the sand and leave it there. Maybe when you get home, rinse it off, pull the spool off, rinse out any sand and salt that got in there. Exactly. This thing's going to last you a long time.
It'll last just as long as you want it to, as long as you take care of your equipment.
All right, good deal. Let's see what else you got.
So that was my entry-level combo. I'm going to jump up to my mid-level combo. So this is a Quantum Strive. This reel is sealed, not 100% sealed, but it's sealed more than that. So
salt water and stuff is not as easily going to enter into the gears and all that stuff.
Right. You take a windy day, there's sand blowing all over the place. You have a fish up there flopping around. He's getting salt water all over the place. This reel can take it. But it's got a few more ball bearings in it. The components that this reel is made from are a little bit better.
Cool.
It'll hold up longer given time.
Yeah.
But this rod, like I said, this reel is still a 5,000 size reel, and it's still on an 8-foot rod. But like I said, you can get that in a 9, 10, whatever length you want. But
all right, so
and then for our
what's the creme de la creme of surf fishing?
So this is
it's got a taller spool.
It does. So this is what you call a long cast spool, which is what makes this reel unique. So the way the line lays on the spool, when you cast, the line doesn't oscillate as much.
Yeah.
And so there's less resistance when you cast. So what you're considering a good cast on a regular reel, now you get 10 to 15 to 20 to 30 more yards out of the same cast.
Well, I can tell you just from looking at it being smaller and not as deep. So also you got to think about it coming off of that smaller spool. There's a lot more stuff it has to clear here. Yeah. And you can it's even got an angle right here. You probably can't see, but it's like a little 45 degree angle on the spool that's going to help it clear a little bit more. Is there anything about the rod too?
So I like this rod. It's a really, really light rod. The action on it is it's a hair lighter than most, but that's what helps you cast. If you ask me, that rod tip is very, very light.
Well, I think that soft tip too, really for setting these hooks. I mean, you want a gradual kind of give on the bite. So that to me has always been super important. It looks like a great setup. Okuma makes it. What's this run? Well, y'all have this marked down, about $15. What, is it even less than that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, geez. All right, cool. Originally 264, and your price 250. So
That's right.
I mean, that's like I said, like that's the upper end of what you're going to need to go do this kind of fishing. You can accomplish everything we talked about with any of those 3 rods. And look, before we go, one of the things we're going to be doing, we're giving away a $25 gift card every week. All you have to do is comment Redfish. Comment Redfish.
That's it, Redfish.
And you get your name into the card. And then look, if you like this video, please share, subscribe. We appreciate it. The guys here at J&M appreciate it. And we'll catch you next week.